Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're picking out, a beautiful natural stone for a big project, maybe granite for a building facade or marble for a floor inside.
Where you love the look, the feel, the natural aspect.
Exactly. But how do you really know what you're getting? Is the name on that sample the correct name? Where did it actually come from? And maybe most importantly now, how do you prove its story?
Yeah, that whole question of identity and origin for stone, it seems simple, but it's actually wrapped up in some pretty complex technical standards. And uh, one of the key European ones is hitting a bit of a wall right now.
A wall
Yeah.
because of,
Because of these huge new digital shifts and new regulations coming down the pipeline.
right. And those shifts, they're not just tweaking the rules, are they? They're apparently creating this really urgent need to fix this specific standard.
That's the core of it.
And our source material for this deep dive, it actually comes from a team, labs, industry folks, academics who are pushing for a revision of this standard, EN 12440. That's the one for naming natural stones from the EU.
So our mission here is to, get into what EN 112440 is, understand why this team sees such an urgent need to revise it now, especially with things like the new construction products regulation, the CPR, and those mandatory digital product passports, the DPPs.
At the DVPs.
And maybe the most interesting part, how updating what sounds like a dry technical standard could actually be a powerful strategic move for the natural stone industry.
A technical standard is a strategic tool. Okay, that sounds interesting. Let's start at the beginning then. What is EN 12440? What's it meant to do?
Well, think of EN 12440 as like the official rulebook for identifying natural stones in the EU. The main goal is to standardize how stones are named.
Using what? What criteria?
It tries to blend tradition with, technical reality. It lays out four main things to identify a stone.
Okay, four things.
Its traditional or commercial name, what people usually call it. Then its petrological family or group, basically, what kind of rock it is geologically.
Like granite, marble, slate.
Exactly. Then its typical color. And fourth, its place of origin, where it was quarried.
So name, rock type, color, origin. That seems clear enough.
It also allows for extra info if the buyer and seller agree, like more specific petrographic names or even its geological age.
And this standard is supposed to apply everywhere, from the quarry right through the supply chain.
Yes, that's the idea, to keep that identity consistent. It also has this Annex A.
Annex A.
Yeah, it's an informative list. It's meant to list most European natural stones sorted by country. The current version from 2017 has lists from 23 countries.
You keep saying supposed to or meant to.
Right.
And the source material we looked at, it highlights some big problems with that list, doesn't it? Right away.
Big time.
Like 11 EU countries didn't even send in lists. And major players globally, like Turkey, aren't included at all.
That's a huge red flag right there. It tells you immediately the list isn't complete. I mean, the standard's been around since 2000, updated a couple of times, but getting consensus for revisions has always been difficult. Slow. Sometimes they just get abandoned.
So a review started in 2022 is still stuck.
Still facing challenges, yeah. It's just slow to adapt. And you've got new stones coming onto the market all the time, others disappearing.
So if the official list in the standard itself isn't complete or even up to date, how reliable is it, really?
Well, that's the problem, that lack of dynamism. The team behind our source material, they did a really detailed check of the existing Annex A lists.
Yeah, and
They found, well, let's just say, quite a few internal inconsistencies. They call them nonconformities.
nonconformities.
Yeah.
Inside the official list, what kind of issues are we talking about?
The kind that really mess things up in the market, undermines trust. For instance, they found about 120 cases where the same stone variety was listed multiple times,
Right.
sometimes with the same name, sometimes different names. But even worse, they found 53 cases where the exact same commercial name was being used for stones that are totally different.
Different how?
Different petrology, different rock type, or different color, completely different materials.
Wait, hold on. So the same name could mean fundamentally different stones?
That's
Wow. That's like ordering, I don't know, Belgian chocolate and sometimes getting milk, sometimes dark, sometimes white chocolate, just under the same name.
It's exactly that kind of fundamental confusion, yes. It
Yeah.
makes it incredibly hard to guarantee you're getting the specific stone you chose.
I can imagine.
And they also found lots of missing information. Names just listed without the required rock type or color or origin details. The analysis suggests the problem lies partly in how the criteria themselves are defined in the standard. They're a bit weak.
And the team didn't just look at the official list, did they? They compared it to what's actually being sold.
Right. They knew the official list was flawed, so they looked at big online commercial platforms like NatureStein, Stone Contact, places listing thousands of stones available worldwide.
And how did the official list stack up against the real market?
Well, it basically confirmed the official list isn't really representative. It's incomplete in terms of countries, too. While the number of stones might seem similar overall, the standards list is missing major sources and doesn't reflect where stones are actually traded from today.
So it's disconnected from reality.
Pretty much, yeah. It highlights just how out of sync the standards list has become.
Okay, so we've got a standard that's meant to be fundamental for identifying stone, but it's slow, inconsistent, the list is incomplete, maybe even misleading. That sounds like it needs fixing anyway. But you mentioned this new urgency, tied to EU regulations. This is where it gets critical.
Exactly. This is where this maybe slightly abstract technical standard suddenly becomes really crucial infrastructure. The EU has overhauled its construction products regulation, the CPR. That's the law governing how building materials get put on the market.
And the big changes.
The big change is the introduction of mandatory digital product passports, DPPs.
Digital product passports. I feel like I've been hearing about those. Sounds like a big deal for, well, everything.
It's a massive shift, yes. Think of the DPP as this comprehensive digital file that travels with a construction product through its entire life.
What kind of info?
Loads of data. Composition, where it came from, its environmental footprint, what to do with it at end of life. It's very detailed.
And this definitely applies to natural stone.
Oh, absolutely. Stone is a construction product. The new CPR is already in force. Mandatory compliance, including the DPT, starts January 2026 for some products.
And stone.
Stone is specifically named as a priority. It needs full DPT integration by 2028, and by 2030, full lifecycle environmental reporting becomes mandatory too.
Wow. Okay, so the deadlines aren't that far off.
Sure.
And you're saying that messy standard EN 12440 is somehow absolutely vital for stone to even comply with this DPP thing.
It's indispensable. The source material hammers this point home. The very first step for any product going into this DPP system is accurate identification.
Makes sense. You need to know what it is.
Exactly. How can you build a digital passport stuffed with data if you don't have a standard, reliable way to name and identify the stone itself? That traditional name, the rock type, color, origin, those basic ID elements, EN 12440, is supposed to provide. They are the foundation.
So without a solid, agreed upon EM 12440.
Building a reliable DPP for natural stone becomes, well, nearly impossible. You can't build a house without the foundation.
Okay, so the DPP needs that solid ID base from a working EN 12440. What else? How does it connect?
Well, it's also essential for things that already exist, like the Declaration of Performance, the DOP, and the CE marking.
Right. Those are required now under the CPR.
Yes, and performance test results, like how strong a stone is or how much water it absorbs, which are determined by other standards, they have to be linked to a specific stone variety. And that variety must be identified according to EN 12440. The DPP basically digitizes all this, so it directly relies on having that clear standard identity data from 12440.
Okay, Clear ID from EN 12440 links to performance data, and it's the starting point for the DPP. What about traceability? That seems core to the DPP idea.
Absolutely central. Understanding the product's journey, and the origin information that EN 12440 specifies is key here. If the standard gives a clear, agreed way to define the quarry location,
then everyone in the chain can check where it came from.
Precisely. Without that standardized origin data linked to the standardized name, proving authenticity, enabling real traceability, it's incredibly difficult. It sort of defeats the purpose of the DPP's traceability function, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And sustainability.
Yeah.
Circular economy, those are big buzzwords driving the new CPR and DPP. How does a naming standard fit there?
Good question. The DPP is going to demand environmental data, carbon footprint, durability, recyclability info. Now, EN 12440 doesn't measure carbon footprint itself, obviously.
Yeah.
But by giving you that precise product ID and origin, it lets you accurately attribute all that environmental and circularity data to the correct stone.
I see.
If you know the stone's origin accurately, using the EN 12440 criteria, you can calculate transport emissions much better for a life cycle assessment, for example. Sustainability data in the DPP is only trustworthy if it's reliably tied to a clearly defined product.
Got it. And one more thing for the DPP, making sure different systems can talk to each other, data interoperability.
Exactly. And for different computer systems to talk about stone products, they need a common language, a shared way to refer to them. EN 12440, by standardizing the naming criteria, provides that essential common vocabulary. It makes that seamless data sharing possible.
So fixing this standard isn't just housekeeping. It's actually building the essential foundation for natural stone to play effectively and transparently in this whole new digital and regulatory world.
That's the argument, yes.
Okay, given the urgency, given all the problems they found, what specific fixes are this team proposing? What concrete improvements?
They've got several key proposals really aimed at dragging the standard into the modern digital age and making it fit for purpose. First, tackling the slow updates.
Yeah, that seemed like a big one.
They suggest regular revision cycles, maybe every 4 years, just to keep pace with the market, new stones, etc. Second, significantly revise and clarify the naming criteria themselves.
Make them less ambiguous.
Exactly. Standardize the terminology, maybe add a glossary. Make sure those 4 criteria, name, petrology, color, origin, are applied the same way by everyone, clearly.
So making sure color means the same thing universally, for instance.
Precisely. For color, they suggest defining the conditions for observing it, like the surface finish. And crucially, moving towards using a normalized system to assign colors.
Like a color code system.
Something like that, yeah. To get away from those sometimes vague or frankly misleading fancy color names you see in marketing sometimes. And for the petrological family, the rock type, it needs to align consistently with other existing rock classification standards.
So standardize the language, standardize the measurements for describing the stone. Makes sense.
Exactly. Third, improve the geographic side. Make it more relevant and precise. The place of origin should always be the geographic name of the quarry location, followed by the administrative levels, region, country, etc. They propose avoiding company names in the origin. And, importantly, they suggest including highly precise geographic coordinate.
GPS coordinates.
Essentially, yes. Using a standard system like EPSG 4326, which is like a universal GPS reference, for the center of the quarry site.
Well, tying geographic coordinates to the stone's official ID, that's definitely thinking about a digital, traceable future.
It really is. And that leads to their last big proposal, pushing for a digital dynamic database.
Instead of that static Annex A list.
Yes. They suggest restructuring Annex A into a clear table, each row a stone, each column a naming criterion. But critically, Annex A should become an online digital version.
Where countries can update it easily.
Exactly. Member states could upload and update their stone lists during review periods. It becomes a living document, not this static, outdated thing.
A dynamic online Annex A that seems absolutely essential if this standard is ever going to keep up and feed into systems like the DPP.
It feels fundamental, doesn't it? And, you know, this revision isn't just about compliance or tidying things up. This is where that strategic opportunity comes back in.
Ah, right, the strategic angle.
The source argues that the name of a natural stone, its identity, it's already a really powerful thing, and it's often exploited by competing products.
You mean like engineered stones, ceramics, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
that mimic the look and sometimes even the names?
Exactly that. They borrow the look, they capitalize on their reputation. Sometimes they even use famous natural stone names like Calicata or Statuario for products that aren't natural stone at all.
Right, I've seen that.
So a revised, robust EN 12440, properly integrated with the DPP, allows the natural stone industry to flip that script, to powerfully differentiate itself.
I hope so.
Because it provides this verifiable, trustworthy reference point for traceability and transparency that those manufactured imitations just cannot replicate in the same way.
Because they don't have a specific quarry origin, for example.
Exactly. While others are imitating the look and borrowing the name, natural stone can use a strong standard, plus the DPP, to prove its authenticity, prove its unique origin, its transparent composition.
So it's using the standard not just to name the stone, but to actually validate its inherent natural qualities in a way the imitators can't match.
Precisely. It lets the industry highlight the undeniable advantages, the clear geological origin, the inherent mineral makeup versus some industrial recipe, the minimal processing compared to energy-intensive manufacturing.
And its natural durability, its longevity.
Yes, which feeds directly into the sustainability story.
Now,
Well, accurate origin data allows for more precise transport footprint calculations for those life cycle assessments. Its inherent durability means lower impact over time. Clear ID makes reuse or recycling easier to manage. A strong standard lets the industry communicate these genuine, nature-based benefits transparently through the DPP.
so revising this technical standard, it really elevates it. It goes from being a potentially outdated rule book to being this crucial, piece of infrastructure that validates natural stone's unique value in this new digital landscape.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How getting the seemingly simple act of naming things right, defining the identity of a natural material becomes absolutely fundamental, foundational for an industry's future competitiveness. Its ability to tell its authentic story in a digital world that's demanding transparency and traceability more and more.
It is really compelling case for the industry to get behind this revision proactively. Okay, so let's recap. We've seen how EN 12440, the standard for naming natural stones, is fundamental but, well, currently kind of broken, inconsistent, incomplete, struggling to keep up.
Right. Challenging its relevance.
And we've connected those flaws directly to why it matters now, because of the new CPR and especially the upcoming digital product passport. A weak standard basically undermines the whole push for traceability, transparency, sustainability in construction.
It makes compliance much harder.
And we've heard the specific practical fixes, proposed regular updates, clearer criteria, digital databases to make the standard fit for the digital age.
And maybe most importantly, we've hit that aha moment. That fixing this isn't just about jumping through regulatory hoops. It's actually a strategic opportunity.
Right. To use clear, verifiable data via a strong standard and the DPP to really highlight what makes natural stone unique, its authenticity, origin, mineral processing, durability, its environmental story.
Qualities that manufactured competitors just can't replicate or verify in the same transparent way.
So why should you, the listener, care about some European standard for stone names? Well, because understanding this helps you see how even really technical rules underpin things like market clarity and trust in what products claim to be.
How we track crucial info like origin and environmental impact, and how these standards are becoming the bedrock for the digital future of how all products, including natural stone, get identified and tracked. It shows how digital transparency really starts with getting the basics, like naming, right?
Yeah, it really does.
Which leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? Consider this, how that fundamental act of clearly, consistently naming something, giving it a verifiable identity, is becoming such a critical battleground in this digital age, an age where traceability and transparency are paramount, and how getting this right is absolutely crucial for ensuring the integrity and the value of natural materials in a world just full of imitations.